Bum, 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 bum. Can start without a T. Anyway, in principle, this video should be quite quick anyway. First of all, I just want to wrap up yesterday's comments with a little prepared story that I've got. So it might be a bit over prepared, but it's a very tricky subject, so it needed preparation. Right, so it goes like this. I've got my old art folio, you know, the thing you put, the tie at the top that you put all your art in. But now I don't do art so much. I do charts. And what I do on YouTube is try and explain to people that things generally aren't black and white. They are black and a spectrum going through to white. Yeah. So I'm into spectrums, most everything and spectrums. Spectras. Spectrums will do quite nicely. Spectrums, not black and white, spectrums. Important to think of all things like that. That's a main drive of what I do here. Okay, so I've got all my big A3 spectrum charts printed out, black and white, in my thing, in my folder, and I'm out somewhere and they spill out onto the floor. And somebody helps gather them all up and just goes, huh, but what's that? On one of them, only one of them, there's a little bit of colour. All the rest are stacked in, and the person pulls it out and says, they're all looks exactly the same except this one. What's this one? Because it looks like somebody's got some crayon and gone across one of the spectrums, one part of the spectrum. Okay, so that's the contrived bit, to say that this particular chart with the spectrum on it, this spectrum is going to microscopic, smallest things we know in science, you know, the muons and gluons and Scooby-Dooons and all that very, very small stuff down there. And up here is your galaxies and nebula and going out to the universe, the really big shit out there. So from the really big shit down to the well tiny shit, and then somebody's come along and gone oof, with a little red pen like that across it, across the spectrum. And I answer, well, that is because that's where the special is. That's where people think special is. There's no particular special all the way down there. There's no particular special all the way here. But just about the 6 foot mark on planet Earth, that's where the special is. Okay, that's finished. If you didn't understand it, you didn't understand it. What else was I going to do? Just fill in time with a chart. Oh, if you could see my new screensaver. So I don't need to show you the chart. It's American, from the United States of America. And it's from 2000 here, over to 2018 here. And into the year 2000, the amount of people employed in shipbuilding in the United States was about 100,000 people. And it's still about 100,000 people. There's been ups and downs and whatever, but it's not really changed that much. Plotted on it, for some reason, down here at 20,000 employed in the year 2000, in red this line is, are the amount of people employed in nail salons. And now it's just about a 45 degree. It's got a slight dip in it like these things often do. It's just a line that's just gone a bit saggy. The whole 2008, 2009, 2010 thing really doesn't affect it at all. It's just part of the sagginess of the line. And the amount of people working in nail salons in the United States of America in 2000 was 20,000, and now it has just surpassed the amount of people working in shipbuilding, and it's up through 100,000. Now I ask the question of you lot, why? Isn't there a shed load of poverty going on? And there are 20,000 here in 2000, and now there are 100,000. Nail salons, big. So, I've got a few ideas, but maybe you've got some better ideas. Now, China, that's what I wanted to say. talking about thoughts that come to me in the bath, the thought that came to me, I don't know what you think about in the bath, but this thought came to me in the bath last night. I was thinking about China, because it's a funny old place. I mean, we know so little about it. And one of the things that we know so little about that came to my mind in the bath last night was crime. Would you not think, I would be thinking, that the Chinese would be really very, very good at crime? And that I would imagine that there is a monstrous crime problem in China. But I've never read, ever, and I go into quite a lot of this sort of stuff, never read anything about anything to do with crime in China. Obviously, the articles will be out there, it's just that I've never fallen over them. But it's an interesting point. Are they all so nice, or is it the government so strong that there's no crime, or there's just a normal amount of crime? I suspect there's a huge amount of crime, which actually paints a funny little corona around China. It makes it just a little more interesting and internally not quite as comfortable as it seems sometimes. Right. Now that was 3 things. I had a 4th if I was doing all right for time. I am. So I'll just move on to this one. It's in a way a conspiracy theory, but it's not a conspiracy theory because it's actual fact. We can stay in China and do it there. Things that some people know some things about, as in you lot. Shadow banking. Everyone will know various amounts of what shadow banking is. It's a really quite difficult subject, so it's not surprising if most people don't know really very much about it. China, I think it's generally known, anybody that follows any sort of financial stuff, that China's shadow banking system is, it's not just bottom left, it just depends where your axis, how your axis, it's bottom, it's really going huge. But the interesting thing is that other countries like Indonesia and just normal countries that you'd think are really cranking up their shadow banking as well. Now, this only ever comes with the approval of the castles in the various countries. The central controlling authorities must be letting shadow banking go in the emerging markets because they are flying. They are absolutely flying. Now, I suspect what's happening, because the Western shadow banks are now on the ramp again, that the governments of the world have been extremely shocked by all this decade of financial crisis ramifications, and they've asked questions, and now they know that it's best in a country when there's more money flying around. And they've asked the question, well, where does this money come from? And they've found out that it comes from banks. And they say, well, we've got to get the banks to give out more money then. But the trouble with banks giving out money is that it's a bit like retail. You can have money on sale price, like it is with very low interest rates. Money is cheap. But you still need somebody to walk into the shop, the bank, be it a businessman or somebody wanting a mortgage, and ask for the loan to make the new money. You can't force it on people. They've actually got to come in, and money's been dirty cheap all around the world for 10 years, and not enough people have been coming in to really get the economies going again, as much as the politicians want, on standard retail banking. So I think they've kind of agreed somewhere up there that, let's let shadow banking fly again. And the new boys, the new countries coming up, get your shadow banking people doing it just like it. What was there was an expression, when the music's playing, you've got to dance or something. That was the City Group boss, wasn't it? Forget his name. Chuck Prince. So the governments, I think, are turning the music on. to get the shadow banks going, because although it's a bit like retail, where still people have got to ask for the shadow bank loans, I'll call it that way. They are much more likely to, because they're financial types. And financial types are very likely to be psychopaths. They are going to pick up the phone. They are going to have ideas. These people are wired and absolutely ranked up. It's the shadow banking, if given rein, will gallop away. And that is what we're starting to see right now across the world. In normal, unless you read the Financial Times, basically you're not going to come across this, or the Wall Street Journal. You're not going to come across this at all. You're only going to come across this when it goes wrong, and it will go wrong. As I've said in the recent past, last year certainly, I can see nothing in the normal banking, retail banking system that can possibly go wrong again. Doesn't mean it can't, but even using worst case scenarios, it looks boxed off by the central banks. It looks solid. But shadow banking is one whole different ball game. Get that flying, and it'll absolute tinfoil hats on won't do you any good, because when it blows, it's going to go absolutely berserk. I could do some videos on what shadow banking is, but I don't think I'll bother. I don't think today I'll bother anyway. But if it becomes necessary, then I will. But just something to bear in mind, that the world governments aren't doing nothing. They are trying to get more money into the systems. And I think they've realised that they've failed with normal retail banking, so are letting the shadow banking systems fly. Good luck to all who enter in there. That's it. Bye.